The southwest border of Vietnam remained a flashpoint in 1976. Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge launched increasingly
1976, An Giang, a peaceful scene along the Vietnamese border, where the calm rhythm of farm life in the border villages was brutal. Under the watchful eyes of the Angkar, any perceived transgression meant swift punishment.
Following the reunification, securing the precise demarcation lines proved a challenging task for the Vietnamese forces.
In the year 1976, Cambodia fell under the iron fist of the Khmer Rouge, who imposed a ruthless and uncompromising rule.
Nikes marked a critical juncture. With the American withdrawal complete, the newly unified Vietnam faced the daunting task of reconstruction and centralized control.
This is year zero. We must destroy the old society and build a new Cambodia based entirely on the purity of our agrarian revolution.
As we pan across the 1976 border, these flashing red zones highlight the most contentious areas.
The coordinated advance towards the frontier marked a dangerous escalation in the region, raising fears of a wider conflict. By 1977, the promise of peace had faded. Along the Cambodian border, the villagers lived in constant fear of the approaching patrols.
The alarms blare across the jungle outpost. The soldiers of the 1977 northern frontier scramble to their position. The year is 1977. Under the banner of the red flag, the Khmer Rouge advanced deliberately across the border.
In 1977, the quiet rhythms of An Giang were shattered. This was the reality of the border conflict.
As tensions flared along the 1977 border, these soldiers formed a crucial defensive line. Their mission? By the spring of 1977, the roads were choked with refugees. Fleeing the violence, they sought refuge across the...
In 1977, the Khmer Rouge launched a series of brutal cross-border raids into Vietnam and Thailand, as shown by these arrows.
The Khmer Rouge specialized in lightning raids, striking quickly before melting back into the dense Cambodian jungle. The field reports arriving that evening confirmed their worst fears. The southern strongholds were collapsing.
This changes everything.
The determined march of these organized columns signaled Hanoi's resolve to settle the border question once and for all. This map illustrates the precarious balance of power, a tension that defined the region for decades.
This quiet village, Ba Chúc, located near the Cambodian border, became the site of unspeakable tragedy in 1978.
Life in Ba Chúc village in early 1978 was defined by its tranquility.
Ba Chúc was surrounded. The forces of the Khmer Rouge, identified by their distinctive red scarves, closed in, signaling the beginning of the massacre.
As the conflict escalated in 1978, innocents sought refuge wherever it could be found. These simple
The stillness that followed the massacre was profound. A silence born of unspeakable loss in the streets of Ba Chúc. It was here, in the spring of 1978, that the true cost of the conflict became horrifyingly clear.
As the details emerged from Ba Chúc, the commanders were faced with a horror they had never anticipated.
The Situation Room crackled with tension as the clock edged closer to midnight.
We must respond decisively, General.
As outlined here, the strategy required swift, decisive action. Failure to secure the primary route was simply not an option for the Joint Chiefs.
By late 1978, the Vietnamese High Command had amassed significant forces along the border. The preparations were... The counteroffensive began in late 1978. In a highly disciplined formation, Vietnamese forces crossed the border.
The Khmer Rouge defense crumbled rapidly. We were so quickly.
By late 1978, the Vietnamese advance seemed unstoppable. For the civilians caught in the middle, by late 1978, the methodical approach of the Vietnamese units ensured strategic dominance of the supply routes. In late 1978, the Vietnamese advance towards Phnom Penh utilized several key routes. As the Vietnamese closed in, the defenses crumbled, revealing the sheer panic within the ranks.
Where are the reinforcements? We can't hold this position!
As the relief effort began, Vietnamese troops worked tirelessly to distribute essential supplies to the weary Cambodian population. In January of 1979, The Vietnamese military juggernaut rolled unstoppably toward the gates of Phnom Penh.
January 1979. Facing the Vietnamese advance, the Khmer Rouge executed a strategic, yet chaotic, retreat towards the sanctuary of the jungle.
On January 7, 1979, Vietnamese troops marched into Phnom Penh, ending the brutal rule of the Khmer Rouge. The fall of the Khmer Rouge in January 1979 marked the end of a dark chapter. Across the country,
The year was 1979. After weeks of uncertainty, the city's heartbeat resumed, albeit hesitantly.
as the stabilization phase began in 1979, Vietnamese forces established temporary security patrols throughout the region.
The year is 1979. Defeated, the Khmer Rouge remnants fled west toward the Thai border, seeking refuge in the dense, unforgiving jungle.
As Vietnam occupied Cambodia in early 1979, China responded with force.
When the explosion finally came, the immediate observers from around the world convened. By 1979, the long-term presence in Cambodia was exacting a heavy strategic cost on Hanoi.
In the wake of 1979, the Cambodian people faced the monumental task of reconstruction.
The post-1979 reconstruction effort was massive. Across the country, Vietnamese engineers worked.
Though the last troops came home in 1975, the economic fallout and the struggles of veterans ensured the situation in Geneva reached a boiling point. Neither the Americans nor the Soviets seemed willing to concede even the smallest point.
By the early 1980s, Vietnam began the phased withdrawal of its troops from Cambodia. This transition,
The early 1980s were a time of immense challenge, but from the rubble, the foundations of a new governance began to emerge.
The scars of conflict fade, slowly reclaimed by the earth. Where trenches once stood,
they carry the weight of battles long past. The echoes of the field and the true cost of war never truly fade.
The red arrows indicate the primary invasion routes during the initial phase of the conflict. This bar chart illustrates the dramatic escalation in the third quarter.
this cultural memory, passed from elder to youth, is the true legacy of our people. The border between Vietnam and Cambodia, once a flashpoint, now represents a vibrant partnership in the modern era.
Today marks a new chapter in our shared history. With this handshake, we embrace reconciliation and look toward a future of lasting peace.
The nations of Southeast Asia are forging stronger bonds. Through cooperation, they are building a foundation for the transition from military to civilian life presents unique challenges. But with the right support, veterans can find their place and thrive. The fields are alive with the promise of a new harvest. Through teamwork and determination, the silence of this place speaks volumes about the sacrifice. We gather here today to remember those we lost. This 17th century map clearly shows the disputed territories. But if we examine the recently unearthed faced with a strong point, the commander utilized a classic indirect approach. This strategic lesson proves invaluable on the modern battlefield. When analyzing the true cost versus the potential outcome, we must pause for critical reflection. Is the balance justified? And as the sun rose, the old divisions seemed to fade, replaced by a quiet sense of peace.
With this historic handshake, Vietnam and Cambodia embarked on a path of normalization, fostering peace and mutual respect.
This shift represents more than just a change in color. It symbolizes a fundamental transition from an age. Through the exchange of culture, communities find common ground. This healing process allows what was once broken to flourish anew. From the vibrant growth of spring to the warmth of summer, the colors of autumn soon give way to the stillness of winter. The historical record, once open, was now officially sealed. A truth consigned to the archives for the foreseeable future. In conclusion, the strategic analysis confirms a 20% growth in market trends. The strategy is approved and ready for implementation. And so the battle ends, not with a cheer, but with a silence that echoes the true cost of victory.